After another week of high inflation and rising gas prices, could we be headed toward a market meltdown? Anxiety around a potential housing crisis is growing. I'm here with realtor Corey Burr with Sotheby's International Realty to discuss the future of the real estate market. Corey, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, I know I'm interviewing you officially now, but I'm sure you've gotten a ton of questions from people about what's ahead. I guess I'll just ask you straight out. We've seen the skyrocketing interest rates with more hikes on the way. Inflation seems to be going from bad to worse. Do you see a real estate market meltdown?
Hopefully not. We think that we're in a much different situation than we were in 2006 through 2008, primarily because the quality of the borrower is much better right now than it was back then. In fact, the credit scores are now average almost 700, and in the past, they were more about 600. So we don't think we're going to have that kind of meltdown.
So you and I were just talking earlier, 35 years as a realtor, you've seen a lot. What have you not seen, and what concerns you?
So what concerns me is the lack of inventory still. Buyers have had a very difficult run the last 2 years, and we're not seeing that many more houses come on the market. What we are seeing, however, is fewer situations where they're in multiple bid situations, and that's great news for buyers. They're not going to have to use escalation clauses, and they're most likely going to be able to use contingencies that safeguard them, such like an inspection, appraisal, and financing approval.
Gotcha. So there's some silver linings here if you really look into the data. Speaking of that, on the economic data front, investors will talk about existing home sales. This is from the Chicago Federal Reserve today. What does that mean, and how could that impact the market?
So we've had some slow monthly sales reports recently, and primarily that's just a function of the stock market correction, the incredibly fast and high interest rate increase in the war in Ukraine. The confidence level of the public right now is quite low, but hopefully things are going to steady off on the inflation front, and that's going to allow the Fed's work with the 3/4 of a point increase last week to bring interest rates down at some point, and that's going to make the market function a little bit better.
All right, so let's talk to the average person now. What do you do with this information if you are in the market to buy a home? What decisions do you make, and what should you look into?
So the buyers and sellers who understand the new reality of the market are going to be the ones who succeed. For buyers, they need to understand that the first weekend on the market, it's still a seller's market. They need to understand that they might have to include an escalation clause and not have those contingencies that I just mentioned. But after a property's been on for a couple weeks, the tides have turned, and it's then a buyer's market for that property. So they can negotiate on the price more forcefully and include those contingencies. And for sellers, the key thing is to price their properties reasonably. If they do that and allow the market to increase it, if it's going to do that, terrific. But it's much better to price reasonably and sell it than to not have anything happen for 3 weeks and then feel like nobody's looking at their property and what have we done wrong.
Yeah, I'm curious, for those who just bought a home, should they be worried about the value of their home or anything like that? Perhaps you just bought it in the last few months in what was a crazy market. Any concern there?
So the main thing to understand is that the U.S. government underwrites residential real estate by allowing us to deduct a portion of our mortgage interest and a portion of our property taxes. And so that's not going to change, at least we hope not. So if they've got a time horizon of 4 to 5 years, they're going to be just fine. They're going to enjoy those tax benefits and, more importantly, the benefit of owning their own property.
Yeah, which is a huge one.
Yes.
All right, this is really helpful. Realtor Corey Burr, 35 years as a realtor. So this is a great perspective. He's with Sotheby's International Realty. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Good to have some good facts there.